Hey, and welcome to another episode of RevivalFlix, where we try to find some classic films and watch them again to see if our perspective has changed because of the probably shift that we had in how we observe films and media in general. That's probably constantly in flux. So it's interesting to see how if we do change up our perspective in something that was, I don't know, launched very long time ago, and watch it today again. Of course, a few things naturally they change, especially the pace of the films. Before we had like kind of like slower paced films, and now we have a bunch of very fast paced film. But anyway, there are also like a bunch of other aspects to explore and to observe. In this episode, we're actually not going to watch or to review a classic film or an old film. It's actually a very new film called Bugonia. However, doing research for this for the review, actually, it does have a connection to an old film, which I'm gonna talk about like later in the review. Anyway, I came about this film because of a TV show that I watch in my country, very popular one. So they always, like mention, some films and so on. So they mentioned this. So it was already in my list before it became, like nominated for the Oscars and whatever. But of course, after it was nominated for the Oscars, it kind of like incentivized me, like to watch it, especially not to leave so much time in between, when the Oscars happen and when the review is coming out. But anyway, let's get into the raw data from the film. So in IMDb, which is my main source for researching about films and filmographies from the actors or the directors and so on. So it has actually a very good rating, 7.4. I think it's user review rating, right? Which I actually trust the most. But anyway, going to the nominations, Oscar nominations. So it has Best Achievement in Music, its original score, Best Picture, Best Actress, and Best Adapted Screenplay. It was nominated for all of these four, but unfortunately didn't win for any of them. But I'm going to say like upfront that the score did stand out for me in this film. So since it's a new film in my bucket here in the channel, is going to fall in under the weird ones. So the score did really contribute for the for the weirdness of this film. It has some moments where the score does put you in that mood, in that weird state, like, oh, you're not really sure what's gonna happen, or you're not really sure actually what you feel about what you're watching and so on. So it had a very high impact, I would say. The score, it stood out like before even I knew that it was nominated for the score. Revenue 43 million. I'm curious to see how much it was spent on this movie, but I consider this a success. 43 million worldwide, I consider it a success. So let's talk about the crew. So the director, I really wasn't familiar with this director, Yorgos Lanthimos. However, I did look at his filmography, and it has very high rated films, very high rated film. There was one film that he also directed that it was already in my watch list, which is Dogtooth. I just didn't watch because I didn't have the subtitles downloaded, but I already took care of that. I'm probably gonna watch in this coming week maybe, and I'll post a review if it's worth it. Anyway, so he does have like good rated films, and also not only by IMDb, also by the professional critics. That was interesting actually to learn about. So the writer, I'm going to talk about the writer because it was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay, which I think it was Will Tracy, and it has another writer called Yang. I'm not gonna pronounce his name right, but anyway, here it goes. Yang Yun Han. Yang Yun Han. I'm gonna try to pretend that that's the right pronunciation. Anyway, so why it's important for for me to mention the writer, because in the research that I was doing, like not only in IMDb but also like in the ChatGPT and so on, it's actually a remake of a South Korean film. So I was really surprised about that, and of course I accessed the IMDb page about it. Very interesting images already. Unfortunately, it was a huge. Was probably a huge flop. It was like $15,000 worldwide revenue. so, so I immediately put in my bucket list, like the watch list from 2003. But it has a high rating, 7.1. So the name of the film, the original film from South Korea, is Save the Green Planet. Save the Green Planet. I'm also gonna try to watch it maybe this week. I'm not sure about, because like I just went through this film. It would be like a very short interval. Maybe I'll leave it further ahead. Let's see how it goes. And Emma Stone as the main actress. And also, I was surprised to learn that she was involved in the production side of it. And I love when people from the film, like professionals from the film, they participate in like multiple roles, multiple behind the scene roles. I love when a director also writes it, or maybe the actor also helps writing it, and so on. In this case, she's producing it. And actually, this film, I think it's kind of like I would say an important point for me, like for before and after, how I kind of like respected Emma Stone. I mean, I already liked her, but after this movie, I'm really respecting her, almost becoming a fan, especially learning about how she was involved in the production side of it. Anyway, uh, I mean, everyone probably knows already, who Emma Stone is. I'm just gonna mention a couple of films: La La Land, um, The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. So yeah, she's been around, and actually, she also participated in two other films that I love, which is The Interview and Superbad. And there was one film, actually, also in a film that I recently reviewed, Addington. It's in my channel. If you want to check that out, please do. And it's worth actually watching the film, for a couple of reasons. It's mentioned in the review. But anyway, there was a film there that was also had a very high rating, 7.7, which is Poor Things. I didn't watch this one, so I immediately also put in my watch list. It's from 2023, and it was nominated for Oscar in 2024. So she's in the role, I would say. Yeah, respecting a lot her. And there was also Jesse Plemons. He's a familiar face, and in my opinion, he was also a highlight for this film. So now let's get into the review about the movie itself. As I mentioned, it's a remake of a South Korean film called Save the Planet. And there was some professional critics, like mentioning it and so on, but not by name. I really had to kind of like dig in, like to find out what was the film. But anyway, they weren't so thrilled about the film, but since like the public rating is so high, I'm actually having high expectations for this film. Anyway, the first thing that stands out about it is like the weird or maybe peculiar aesthetics behind, like the images and the photography and so on. I think it did a really good job not only maintaining that weird aesthetics throughout the film, but also kind of like creating a visual identity about it. Like I'm not sure what to point out. What was like the main graphical treatment that was about, our image treatment that was about, but it did have some kind of like filter, like throughout the scenes and so on, that it kind of like already put you in that weird mood state. So very well done, very well thought about. Actually, I'm even curious, like to see professionals that were involved, in the photography or maybe in the editing and so on, to see what other films they had also been part of in the technical sense. But anyway, this was the first thing that stood out. So it kind of like the film kind of like is slow to really get into the main plot. It cuts over, here and there, like just for you to get familiar with the characters and so on. But after it really enters, like the plot, and you start to understand what what the movie is going to be about. It's actually very fun. I think it's a very fun movie, because you engage there, like cheering, like for something to happen, and then it doesn't happen, and so on. And it's an engaging film. What I need to say actually about the plot is that when it first like got to the action scenes and so on, really like into the story, you kind of like guess what the outcome is going to be, like the ending is going to be. But however, that changes, like throughout the film. There are some things that happen that kind of like convinces you the other way around. So I think they did a really good job on like putting you off. Oh, you think you're gonna know what's gonna happen in the end? No, this, please pay attention to what's gonna happen now, or like back and forth like that. I would say that there were like a couple of moments that I kind of like unwound, like what I had thought the ending was going to be about, so that part of, I think it was very well done and very fun to watch. So the main I would say that the main uh, focus on the film, I would say, is like making fun, like in an extreme sense, of two of the main perspectives that are currently being, like very, very, I would say trendy, in the internet and so on, like I'm not gonna say too many details here, so I can, I won't give you any spoilers. But there are like two main perspectives here that are being really heavily mocked. One, maybe it's a heavier mock, but that's part of like the off-putting strategy of the film. So they did it in a way, like in a so stereotypical way on both sides, that it was in a way funny, and also it contributed immensely, like to really stir you, into the direction that the director probably intended to do, or the writer even probably intended to do. So it was really cool to see this, and I'm also curious how this the first film from 2003. I mean, it was so long ago, right? I mean, so long ago. I mean, come on, it's just 20 years. But anyway, it wasn't, because the Bugonia, it deals with these subjects that are really trendy, right? Currently trending. Currently, I would say like from 2015 onwards, right? So in 2003, those subjects weren't around. So I'm curious to see what was the focus on that film, like to kind of like play around, with the viewer and so on. Yeah, that's probably gonna be actually my main my main expectation there when I'm watching this film. Anyway, so I'm talking about like this these subjects, right? And it has, I mean, it's not just like simple as like one side or the other. It has like a mixed layer even of concepts on both sides. That was really, I would say, smart, from the writers. Probably I would credit that to the Will Tracy, because he was the one that had probably helped, to adapt in the modern contexts of everything that it's being talked about and so on. So in my opinion, that was very well done, very well done. um, So as I also mentioned, there are a couple of parts in the film that throws you off to what you expect in the end. So what I would say about this film, it's not only Emma Stone is very sharp in this role. I'd say that it was a fair nomination for the Oscars, but I think she was kind of out of luck because who won the Oscar was that actress from Hamnet, and I actually watched that movie in the theaters, and it was, I mean, while I was watching, I was already kind of like impressed, but I didn't have like the sense of, oh, this is for sure going to be an Oscar nomination and so on. I wasn't sure about that because honestly I'm kind of like not up to date, with the films that were participating in the Oscars and so on. Now I'm a bit more, but it did stand out, the actress on Hamnet, and I would say that it was totally out of luck for Emma Stone, but I really became a fan of her because of this film. And the other highlight that I also mentioned initially was Jesse Plemons, which he makes. He's probably like the main character from the other perspective that it's talked about in the film, or portrayed in the film. And also something else that I should mention that about this film, I would say that it had kind of like a resemblance in the style, of not in the subject but in the style of the substance. So, to whom I would recommend this film, if you liked the substance, or you like movies, like that are kind of like the substance, this movie is definitely for you. This movie is definitely for you. And also, like, if you like, you enjoy, like weird movies and so on, this is for sure a fun movie to watch. It's kind of like dark also. It has I would say like kind of like twists, like in the middle, and also closer to the middle, and closer to the end and so on. So overall, I would recommend this film, even if you don't like weird films, because it just becomes weird like closer to the end. Throughout the film, it's kind of like a crime movie. So a very well structured, actually, crime movies. It kind of like also. Also resembles, like old school films. I'm going to mention one, but it doesn't have like that real connection. But like, for example, Silence of the Lambs or something like that. So it was like well done. Like as a serious movie. Throughout basically all the full film, and then at some point it had some kind of weirdness where it threw it into that bucket. So it's kind of like surprising in that sense, and I would say it's a very well structured movie, especially with the score. I think it really matched with the aesthetics of the film. So yeah, I would recommend this basically for everyone, unless you you totally didn't like the substance. This movie is not for you. That's my my final thought on that one. Anyway, so this has been fun, and I hope I get back with the original film, right? Let me see the name again. Save the Green Planet. Having a high expectations of that one, and also encouraging anyone, like that, also are into, old movies, classic movies, to maybe, create your channel and just start debates around it. And of course, leave your comments if you agree or disagree with anything that I'm saying here, especially the relationship with with the substance that I'm mentioning here, because I was actually surprised that in IMDb there's a section called like more like this, right? And the substance wasn't there, so I had to kind of even remember, the name of the film. My memory lately is kind of off, but yeah, and I'll see you in the next one for sure.